can you just do the thing that you're supposed to be doing?
Don't worry, sir.
Sure. Why'd I worry? Oh, hey, welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. If you haven't listened to the podcast before, in addition to sharing entertaining and informative photography and business-related content, I also go on missions with the crew of the Starship Fibonacci. At the moment, I am a little tied up.
Stop struggling.
Because these troopers didn't put any warning signs about the anti-gravity zone in this sector. Then, in an attempt to get me out, they have since managed to get me tangled in the rescue line they were supposed to be using to pull me out with.
Technically, we're safety officers.
You're not making yourself seem any less at fault here. Anyway, on this episode of the Nerdy Photographer Podcast, I talk with friend of the show, Stephen Van Elk from the Wedding Photo Hangover Podcast about the Hallmark film In the Key of Love. You see, one of the main characters in this film is a wedding photographer, and, well, let's just say we have a lot of feelings about this movie and how photographers are represented in it and just how the story works or doesn't. So be sure to stay tuned for that conversation right after the break.
Hey, we're going to go take 30 minutes for lunch, okay?
You had one job. One job. Hey there, photographers, videographers, other creatives, podcasters. Pronto All-in-One from Flow Themes is the ultimate solution for anyone looking to build a stunning custom website on WordPress. With its powerful Flex editor and seamless integration, Pronto offers the perfect blend of design flexibility and WordPress functionality. Gone are the days of using complicated themes and struggling to customize them to fit your needs. With Pronto, you have access to a vast library of over 300 Flex blocks, 24 style kits, 40 page layout templates, and 9 starter website layouts. This means that you can easily create any type of page or layout you need without any design or coding experience required. Pronto's visual and intuitive editing interface allows you to see exactly what your page will look like in real time as you add and customize content blocks. This makes the process of building and editing your website far more efficient. I use Flow Themes for all of my websites, from wedding photography, my event and portrait photography website, and the Nerdy Photographer website. Get started with Flow Themes by visiting nerdyphotographer.com/recommends/Flow Themes, or just go and click the link in the episode notes. You can use the code Casey25 to get 25% off. That's Casey25, all uppercase. Whether you're a blogger, podcaster, photographer, small business owner, Pronto All-in-One from Flow Themes has everything you need to keep your website looking fresh, trendy, and unique. Try Pronto All-in-One today and discover the power of WordPress made simple. Hello, welcome to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast. I'm your host, Casey Fatchett. I'm here today with Stephen Van Elk from the Wedding Photo Hangover Podcast. Welcome, Stephen.
Hey, how you doing, Casey?
I'm doing great. The holidays are over. I think I'm finally back to 100% after the holidays. Before we get started, we got to roll the dice breaker.
Oh,
it's 10.
Love this.
It's Q&A. Again, this is like the second time in a row for Q&A for you.
Yeah.
I think. All right, let's pull one up. I just got Adobe Lightroom. What can I do with it?
Nothing. Nothing. You have to have photos to be able to do something with it.
That's all you've got? Sorry, you can't. You're not gonna be able to do much unless you got pictures to put in there.
You can batch edit a bunch of photos, but oh man, it would be nice to know context. Like, is this person even a photographer, or is it just
No
like
idea.
they downloaded Adobe Lightroom because
What can I do with it?
Photo editing app.
Well, I'm part of a lot of I think we're also members of similar groups, and I saw somebody the other day like, I have Photoshop and Lightroom. What's the difference between the two? Have you opened either of these programs? There's a lot of differences. This one is for batch editing raw files mostly, and they've added more and more like Photoshop-esque things to Lightroom over the years because they're like, so you don't want to have to leave Lightroom to do stuff. But if you've opened either program, I think you know that there's big differences between the two. So what can you do with Lightroom, Steve?
I can cull a 4,000 photograph wedding in less than an hour. I can edit said wedding also in less than an hour using presets that I've made. What else can I do with Lightroom? Oh, I can do more Photoshop-esque type stuff like, the select subjects, select background stuff that has really made my Lightroom editing time exponentially go through the roof.
Yes, because now you're like, oh, I can make the people lighter and darken the background a little bit and then make them pop a little bit more. I will say that masking is pretty good in general.
Very good.
For just like the quick shot, like, hey, I'm going to select, and it makes me mad about all of the years that I spent in Photoshop trying to select things and like get the edges right, and now it's like, hey, what's the subject of this? I'm like, how did you know that? How did you know that was the thing that I wanted to pull out of this photo? Because my composition isn't great. There's a lot you can do with Lightroom. I call in Photo Mechanic just because I find it faster. But yeah, editing lots of photos with your presets. Make your own presets, folks. That's the message of this podcast. If nothing else, make your own presets. Then doing all that editing, like there's a lot of things you can do. Like one thing that I think could be improved on in the Photoshop things that you can do in Lightroom is the cloning or like healing tool or whatever it is. Like I'm going to select this part of my photo and copy it over here to it's usually something you do. It was originally designed as like a dust removal tool. Like, oh, if you got a little something here, we're just going to choose a little spot. Now people are like, I'm going to choose a whole thing here. If you're going to use it for larger portions of your photo, you need to be able to do different things. You need to be able to like select, go back and select and change the selection that you're using to, paste something from. I think that you need a little bit more, I don't know, interactivity or whatever. I'm trying to think of the word utility there or whatever to that tool to make
That's another thing though that they've recently updated is the healing and content aware. Like they added content aware field to Lightroom now. That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. And the funny thing is I don't know if you've seen Adobe ads on television. Like
I don't watch television.
When was it? Oh, it was because I have I have one of the streaming services that I'm part of has ads at the beginning of shows, and they ran an Adobe ad, and my wife was like, "Wow, you can like they did a content aware fill around a person. Like there's a person standing in front of two people, and they did like subject select or whatever, and like they selected the other two people that were like in the background right behind this person, like edged up against them, and just hit content aware fill, and like then you see them just gone, and I'm like, no, that is not how content aware fill works. Anyone who has used content aware fill near an edge of anything knows that is not how content aware fill works. You can't just select something that is up against the edge of another thing and hit content aware fill and not get that whatever that was up against flopped over into your selection.
Duplicated out. There's like 5 different shoulders going up from the shoulder.
Like, oh, look, that's a nice belt buckle. What if you had it 18 times? Just feathered out into the rest of your picture. No, content aware fill does not work that magically. I keep having to tell friends of mine, like, oh, what if you just did this? They'll send me a photo and be like, oh, I want my dog to like be floating in the air. And I'm like, I can make your dog float on a different picture. But I can't like just disappear. These people, oh, I see it on TV. Nope, doesn't work like that. It's wonderful. It's a great tool. I love it. But it does have its limitations.
Now, what you could do is you could select just the person you wanted to keep in.
Yes.
Cut and paste them to a new layer.
Right.
Then select the people behind him and him in the original layer and content aware fill that whole thing.
Yes. And I think that's actually what they're doing.
Yeah.
But they don't show it that way.
Yeah.
They're doing something else. They're showing them like select the people behind them they're like standing in a
yeah.
flying V, and they just like show them like select the people behind them, and then click content aware fill, and they just magically disappeared. Like, yeah, no, that's not.
Do you ever use flying V as like a prompt for like guys at a wedding?
Yeah, I call it
like,
the Reservoir
hey, we're gonna
Dogs.
do a spouse.
It's
Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah, I used to call it that. I think more people have not seen Reservoir Dogs as I get older and older. They're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, flying V," and they go, "Oh, okay, all right." I do that sometimes, like when they're walking, because like, "Hey, this looks cool." One I've also done that with is like if I have them standing still, have like the groom in focus and like the guys like standing behind them out of focus. It's whatever. It's something. I mean, I don't usually have a lot of go-tos. I like to kind of go with what the energy people are giving me. But if that's that's one that I will run to.
I asked because I had 3 weddings this year where the guys, I said, all right, we're going to do like a V, like a flying V, and was just met with not a single guy knowing what I was talking about.
Have none of them ever seen Mighty Ducks?
I just felt so old. There's a new Mighty Ducks show.
Second season is already
flying V on that.
Yes, they have.
They do.
Yeah. Oh,
so it'll come back in like 10 years.
Probably.
I'm still shooting weddings.
I don't know. I don't know how many people are watching that show. Unfortunately, like the first season, I enjoyed. They had Emilio. There was some. Then, like the second season, like there were some issues with Emilio, I guess, and like he wasn't on, and kind of like they shoehorned in Josh Duhamel as kind of the male adult lead in the show, and it had a lot of. The second season felt very strained. I am a nostalgia fan. I will watch things out of nostalgia. Like that first season I watched, and I was like, that was fun. It was fun. Do we need a second season? Probably not. But Disney likes to keep going with things. I don't know. Willow, I've got mixed feelings about. I watched that as well.
Have you been watching that? I haven't even started yet.
Yeah, there are some things I really like about it, and then there are things that I'm like, like I'm not a fan of as well. Like it's really gives me mixed feelings.
Yeah.
Speaking of mixed feelings, today we are talking about a Hallmark film called In the Key of Love, which is about one of the characters is a wedding photographer. And I asked Stephen to watch this movie because it has driven me crazy since the first time I saw it. And at the time I was like with my sister, and she was like, "Oh, is this just like something that is bugging you?" I'm like, "No, this would bug any wedding photographer who watches this movie." There's so many things, and yeah, let's get into it. I mean, what was your takeaway from this movie?
Be honest, Casey, this was a rough movie to watch. I watched it with Jen, and it just felt like it was sliding off the top of my brain. As soon as I watched a scene, it was just gone immediately. I never experienced that with a movie before. It was so hard, so incredibly hard to keep track of what was happening or anything that was going on, because I just didn't care about a single character or a single thing happening. It was rough. Like devoid of conflict, devoid of romantic tension, devoid of anything that would make it interesting for a viewer.
Yeah,
all I had was my rage about the photography stuff.
It really it made me want to throw things at a TV, and I normally don't I'm not that kind of person, but I legitimately wanted to pick up the TV and throw it out of a window. I was like, can't believe this shit is happening. Obviously the person who wrote it, the person who directed it have no clue about anything regarding photography and probably weddings. I don't think any of those people have ever been married, because there was just so much stuff going on that I don't understand. Okay, so for our listeners,
I don't think they knew anything about music either, because the leads are supposed to both be singers.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, they were singing a song, and it had the lyrics in it, "Operate the Rhythm." And I was like, that is not that is not how any musician I know would
Writes
ever
a
describe
song.
rhythm. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then, so for our listeners, I'll post a link where you can watch this film that will, if you're into photography or wedding photography or have ever been to a wedding, will probably drive you crazy, or listen to music. Any of those things, this is probably going to drive you nuts. I'll post a link in the episode notes where you can go watch this film. Quick rundown. Our main character is a wedding photographer, and she's just picked up wedding photography as a thing to do at her aunt's wedding place up in the Pacific Northwest. She was formerly a country music singer-songwriter. And the plot of the movie is that her former boyfriend, love interest, and writing partner.
Can we really call that a love interest?
It comes to it's his sister's wedding. They surprise both of them. And this is something also that really gets me. Like, I'm going to go over the sister books her wedding at this place so they can surprise the two of them and get them together, and without knowing that they were going to see each other again. Like, my first question is, why? What is wrong with the sister? This guy's sister, like, she's like, I'm going to get married in this place just because his ex is there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that seems to be the reason, because they still live in Nashville, I think, or somewhere around there. And this is in like Seattle. Mm-hmm. They're like, you're going to do a destination wedding just so we can set these two up.
Well, the one thing that did stick with me from watching the movie was that I do want to go to Piedmont Island.
Oh, yeah. It was amazing.
Where, this was supposedly all shot and filmed, because it looked beautiful. And I could totally see myself, wanting to do a destination wedding there, hanging out with the mayor, eating some cookies, stealing flowers,
mayor
all
cookies,
the stuff that normal people do.
Yeah, that's what small town life in the Pacific Northwest is apparently like. That's just how you do things. And yeah, apparently you do so many weddings that you forget the names of the people who are standing right in front of you. That was the first line, I think, from our main character, was that she's like, I don't even remember who those people are. Like, really? Like, you don't know their names? Like, you were just talking to them. And it's not like this is, I'm still trying to understand the setup of this place. Like, this is an island, which is very popular for weddings, apparently. But are there more than one wedding going on at a time? I can't tell. If it doesn't appear that there is, because this is the only place that you can get married. So it's kind of like you're getting the place to yourself, because these people rent out the place for the week. They got the grand poobah package of like getting the place for the whole week. So if you're dealing with the same people like for a whole weekend, like, how can you not remember who the people you were? Like, I have huge problems with her both as a business person and as a photographer.
Well, as a business person who has been working in weddings for a while, I can say that I oftentimes forget people's names and faces. So that part felt real to me.
You identified with that? That struck a chord. What struck a chord with me was also she's been there for 2 years, I think it was. She's like, and she's got like a studio that is a huge house. That I was just like, okay, and with her name on it. But she's only getting weddings because her aunt owns this place and just like feeds her clients.
Her grandmother,
Nana. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was her aunt for some reason. Is just like feeding her clients over and over again because they're on an island, and she's the only like local photographer.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing was weird. I would love to talk about the economy of Piedmont Island that is only accessible by a very, very tiny ferry boat.
Right.
And somehow can support a full-scale florist with a sauna instead of a refrigerator, and has tons of like these cute little shops all over the place.
Wedding shops.
Cars on the island. I thought when they were taking the ferry over, we were in for some Mackinac Island charm, and we didn't really get that, you know?
Yeah, as a Michigander, I understand that. Yes, completely. We're going to get some like people. There could be some horse-drawn carriages, or we're going to get like people in golf carts. But nope, it's the mayor driving the trolley bus. Yeah, the economy of Piedmont Island is something that also was in my notes. Like how there's a wedding shops. Like there's like, you know, when they talk about, oh, we're going to go get stuff. Like there's like a whole slew of wedding shops in this town.
I think there have to be other places where people can get married on the island other than Nana's manse.
Yeah, there must be, because there's no way that this island can support the very wedding centric economy of this island. Like it's like they seem to only have cookies and weddings. Are the only two things.
That is a dream island. Yes, I would love to live there. But I do wonder how an island in Seattle, outside Seattle, so that's very north.
Yes.
Is able to function year round if their main source of income is from weddings, which will not be happening most of the time in the winter.
I mean, the Pacific Northwest, I mean, recently they've had issues, but things in the Pacific Northwest generally are fairly mild, had been for quite a while. So I wouldn't be surprised, but it's also very rainy. And my knowledge of weddings from up there is like, oh, you have to be prepared for rain.
Not a single rainy day in this movie.
Nothing, not even cloudy, which is, that is something I did have an issue with. This girl, doesn't know what she's doing. I think would be putting it mildly.
Yes.
It's interesting because I have since watched more Hallmark movie. No, not this. Twice I've watched this. I watched it originally, then I watched it again to discuss it for this episode, but never again. But I've watched other Hallmark movies now that are photographer centric, and it seems like it's either the actor themselves or the writers, directors, whatever. Either they actually seem to have like some focus on like, okay, this is what a photographer would actually do. Mm-hmm. They have a little bit of sense of it, or they have absolutely no clue. Like, I'm surprised these people don't still have like the lens cap on while they're supposed to be shooting stuff. Yeah, like my favorite part is how she's supposed to be like photographing all these events from their wedding week. She commonly stops taking pictures. Like the amount of times,
important parts.
Yes, like super important stuff during the wedding. Like she just stops taking pictures. One of my favorite moments is when
the bride's walking down the aisle.
Yeah,
she's not taking photos.
She's not. She stops and she's just looking at it like, oh, my friend. Oh, like this is so wonderful. And I'm like, you got a job, lady. You are supposed to be capturing these moments. Yeah, and she just like stops taking photos all the time. Like, I don't know, like, how have you survived? How has Nana not murdered you? Because
especially with the big reveal at the end that Nana was originally a photographer.
Yes.
Her true passion in life is not wedding planning. It is photography.
Surprise. I mean, that was a huge twist. Huge twist.
Well, it made a lot more sense than why Nana was like, yeah, no, I can take the photos. No worries. If you want to take off, I got it.
You know what? If you just want to quit doing photos, I can do it. Like, it's like, you know what? This is better. And then have the assistant run the managing part of it, and Nana's going to take photos. Because, yes, anything would be better than someone who, my memory card's full. I got to go back to my house, get another memory card. She disappears.
What Casey's talking about is at the wedding, Maggie, our main character, her memory card, something happens to it. It glitches.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry because she has all the other photos before the glitch.
Right.
And I was just like, this is not how memory cards work. If that memory card is glitching, you are probably going to crap your pants if you're not shooting to two cards.
Right.
Because you're like, oh my gosh, I just lost all the photos. Who knows?
Guess what? They're all gone.
She leaves and goes somewhere else. They picture Maggie with a messenger bag, a leather messenger bag. And I feel like they saw like a leather camera bag and were like, that would be cool. But then they forgot to buy that. And somebody had a messenger bag and like, she can just carry that around.
That's just fine.
It's not big enough to stick a camera in or lenses in. And she never, she just like puts it on every once in a while. But most of the time she is walking around with her camera without the neck strap around her neck.
Yes.
She's just holding the camera. It was so crazy. Like the very first scene of this movie was when they're getting off scene within photography, they're getting off the ferry and she's standing on the dock taking photos of them getting off the ferry. And she's holding the camera and Jen immediately, while we're watching it, points out to me, look at her left hand. Because her left hand was on top of the lens, not underneath the lens.
Right, she's not supporting it.
The photographer would hold it to like support the camera and support the lens. And then not only is it on top, but like she's also fingertips only on like the ring. And I was just like, who's just using fingertips? Like there's some sort of alien who just found a camera and they're kind of afraid they're gonna break it. So like they don't really want to touch it too much. Like it was so inhuman and insane as a photographer to watch these people operate this camera. It was like somebody in the crew owned that camera. And they said, on the day of shooting, they're like, I guess she's a photographer. So does anybody have a camera she can borrow? And that person yelled at her and was like, do not break it. If it comes back with a single scratch, I'm suing you. I'm suing the movie. I'm getting everything shut down. And like, then they were afraid the whole time. Because also like, she will take her camera and she will put her camera down on like a table or whatever and just walk away.
Yep.
Like that was another thing
that drove me crazy.
Sorry. But when she set the camera down, it was like the most gentlest, like little set down of a camera I'd ever seen. And I was like, professional photographers care about their cameras, but like nobody's like it's not taking that much care. It's a tool. You put it down.
It's not
like,
an eggshell.
Down.
Yeah. Yeah. She looked like she had never held a camera ever in her life. Which I thought was an interesting choice. And also, she just shoots with a 28-70, I think, the whole time. Like, I think the entire movie, I think she's just shooting with one lens.
They did black out the brand on the camera, and they didn't let her have a branded camera strap, which I know was not because they wanted her to look like a real photographer. Though most real photographers I know do ditch their branded straps for the leather ones or whatever. But she was using a Nikon, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yes, pretty sure that, which might be. Then we'll get into that later as far as like brand stuff. But it's just like the way she like you just brought the way we brought out like the way that she holds it. Like she doesn't know what it does. Like she doesn't know what anything on that camera does. She's never. All she does is hitting the shutter button and looking at the back of the camera and like daintily touching the lens. There's no, and maybe I'm asking too much, but no, I don't think so. As a professional photographer, like people, that's what my sister said when I was watching it originally. Maybe you're just too critical of this because you're a professional. And then she was watching and she's like, no, this woman looks like an idiot. She very clearly doesn't look like she knows what she's doing.
I just had this realization. It just clicked for me. One of the Wedding Hangover listeners that I've become friends with has, in the last few years, switched over from shooting weddings to being a photographer for movies. That camera is 100% that movie's photographer. And they're just like, any scene where they need it, they're like, hey, you can't take pictures during this scene. We need this on set. That is 100% what happened with that movie.
The set photographer's camera.
Yeah, that's got to be it.
I don't know, because it was bad. It was just the leaving the glitchy memory card, which don't worry about it. I've still got all the photos from before. Like, no, you would I wouldn't bring that up at to the couple unless I was just like, okay, I've already got. Why do you not carry other cards with you? You got the bag, even though it's the wrong bag. Like, still, do the people who gave her the messenger bag not think like, oh, they put things in this like batteries, memory cards, other lenses? Yeah, she leaves. She straight up leaves the wedding for long enough of a period of time for major events in the plot to happen.
Yeah.
It's just what? Like no. Well, I would hope no wedding photographer would ever do that. I'm sure that there's some things have happened, but like it just blew my mind. Like where are you going? And just during all sorts of things during this whole week, this grand, week that they've booked of events, she's commonly, like you said, just putting the camera down, walking away from it completely to have, a scene with her love interest, so they can like do stuff together. I'm going to shoot some photos of this, of the flowers at the florist's shop, and so that this can play a part later on in the film. But then I'm just
that did bother me so much too, because she's taking photos of the florist and then she's showing the florist the photo she just took, and the florist was concerned about the way she looked, and she's like, here you go, you look great. And the depth of focus was such that the flowers in the photo were in focus,
right,
and the florist is completely blurred. It's like she was shooting at f1.2 to get that photo. And she's like, you look great. Don't worry. You could be a model. And it's like, she's not even visible.
You can't even you just, there's a human shape there.
Ghost blur. Like,
yeah. And I kept thinking like, oh, well, like at the very beginning of the movie, when you start to see like some like faux shots, I'm like, are these like stock photos that they're just throwing in there? Or is this like the actual like couple we're seeing or whatever? And they're seeing pictures. I'm like, oh, this is this like the director of photography is shooting this stuff, and like that's all we're getting. Those are the actual photos we're seeing. So this is someone who actually knows something about taking pictures and composition. But yeah, that photo, it's like this was obviously taken by somebody who's like, oh, the subject is the flowers. I'm going to take some really nice pictures of the flowers. Oh yeah, you look beautiful.
Yeah. Oh man. And also it upset me that several times throughout the movie, she just gives her camera to somebody else to take pictures.
Right.
And it's just like, no working photographer would do that. They wouldn't be like, hey, wedding planner, bestie friend who doesn't know anything about my life. Here's my camera. Take some photos.
Yeah. Just, snap away. You know what you're doing. Because I don't know about you. I'm pretty sure it's a similar experience. But every time I hand my camera to someone else, if I do, there's a long list of instructions that I give them. And I'm like, hey, so this is the button that's going to focus it. This is the button that's going to take the picture. That's all you're going to touch. Those are the only two things. I've already set up the settings, and you're going to take like 2 photos, and then I'm taking that back. I'm not giving you the camera. There's, and just the sort of the wedding world part of this also seemed kind of weird. And I'm trying to understand, Nana's thinking, like with the assistant. You mentioned her best friend, who I don't know, like how they're best friends. Maybe it's from working together all the time for 2 years, in her whole 2 years.
Because they don't seem to have a relationship.
No.
But that's literally the only person she talks to other than her grandma, Scott Michael Foster, who, I get. Yeah. If Scott Michael Foster showed up to a wedding and I was a photographer, I'd want to talk to him too. But she just talks to her grandma, Scott Michael Foster, and then the wedding planning assistant lady.
Yeah.
Which, oh gosh, that storyline, like the B plot of like her possibly leaving or whatever, it was just like, who cares?
Right. This is what people do.
Who cares?
That's what people do. They, you know what? You get a new job, you move up in the industry, do whatever. Like I'm watching that. I was just like, yeah, go ahead, leave. Like
in the end, when she finally says she's going to quit, and the Nana is just like,
no, you're not.
You'll be my business partner. You're not quitting. And it's just like, okay, but can we see like what the terms are there? Like, is this like a 45-55 split on the business? Like how much is the buy-in? Like, You
How
don't
is
just
this
say
working
to
out?
someone, "You're my business partner," and that's it, and that's okay. Like,
It's just like, just be sure to finish working this wedding. You're totally my business partner. Be sure to finish the wedding that we're working on right now, and then we'll talk details. Don't worry about it.
love. She tried to quit like halfway through the wedding ceremony.
She's like, yeah, I'm just going to leave. I got an offer on another job. Like, really? Is the ferry here? Since
The ferry that only runs like once or twice a day.
Twice a
from
day.
the island to the mainland.
Twice a day, and it's a tiny boat. And how did they get cars out there? There's so many questions that I have about Piedmont Island. Who built the mansion?
The cars came across the Bering Land Strait about 200,000 years ago. Actually,
the cars were uncovered in an archaeological dig as part of the building of the mayor's mansion and the planting of his flowers.
which the part where they asked the mayor if they can have some of his flowers because the florist, all of her flowers were in a sauna apparently and got ruined. I wanted so bad. They cut to a shot of the back of that pickup truck filled with flowers, just overflowing with flowers, and all supposedly taken from his garden. And I just wanted a shot as they drove away of his house, and it's just like barren and there's no flowers. It's just like
ripped up.
All the leaves are gone. Everything's ripped up. But no, you can see clearly in the background the whole time. His garden is still perfect. There's all the flowers there that he could ever want. And it's like there was literally no stakes to this. Like they just went and asked, and he said yes. There was no like, well, I can't give you the flowers because the big garden flower show. Like,
right.
There was no
it's the town's, like he wasn't like, it's the town's property, I can't give it away or anything like that, like, or something, or anything. He's just like, sure, you can take my flowers. And yeah, like you said, it's a pickup truck full of flowers, and there's like nothing has been removed, like they haven't touched anything, because I'm sure, again, shooting that movie, they were like, you can't touch any of these flowers. Just this is somebody's actual property, and you can't dig anything up.
To come to Piedmont Island and destroy our small town. Have you even thought about how you're going to get all the golf carts you need to carry the PAs and directors around the set to the island on our small ferry boat?
Our tiny ferry boat that holds maybe 8 people. It holds the wedding party. All right. Speaking, and now it makes me think of like the getting off of the boat at the beginning, and she sees him, and she's like, "Oh my!" Like there is no chemistry between the two of them.
Zero chemistry.
And
it would have been more believable to me if she had said she had to promise the mayor something to get the flowers. And it was like, oh, she promised him some sort of like escort sexual service or something. That would have been more believable to me, because there's more chemistry between her and the mayor than there was between her and Scott Michael Foster. Jake, that was his name,
yes.
Right?
Yeah. And
sorry, he was on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which I loved, and he's great in that. And in this, it was just like, what happened?
A friend of my wife was on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend as well.
Nice.
Burl. He's the one who sings the "Don't Be a Lawyer" song.
Yes.
Yeah. They went to college together. Yeah, there's so little chemistry between the two of them, which is even more, they put them into such contrived scenarios. And I know it's a Hallmark movie. I'm expecting a certain amount of that, but there is like, they are just smashing them together. It's like you have two, like the ends of, you have a charging block, and you're just like smashing the two sides where your USB plug goes into, and you're just like smashing those together, thinking that they're going to interlock. There's nothing there. It's just like they don't, the parts don't go together. And it's just like we just keep banging them together, and nothing is happening. There's nothing there. It's just so empty. And then when they start writing music, like you mentioned before, they're going to write a song together because they were, a songwriting duo. That the song just feels like they have no connection to the song.
Yeah.
there's
Man,
no.
it was a rough watch, a real rough watch.
Yeah, I was really glad when she quit photography at the end.
I was like, honestly, anything's better than this. Even your music, which was not very good.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead, go off and become a music duo. Fail at that. That's totally fine. Don't disgrace my profession anymore.
Disgrace some other profession.
Yeah, make musicians miserable for a while.
Oh gosh, and the stakes at the end of the whole thing, where he has to leave the wedding so he can get back to Nashville to record a song that Maggie writes a song,
right?
But he's got to go record the pop star he's working with on their album singing that song. Those are the stakes. He's got to make it.
Yeah.
And then he just doesn't go and he stays. And then he's like, oh, and actually the pop star wants us to open for her. So
on
we're
her
getting
tour
the band back together. And it's just like, what? Where did this, how does she, her tour was going to be canceled because she didn't have a song.
Right. And you took the song
album
away.
And now the song you gave to her, you've now taken back because now you're going to perform it apparently. So how is she going to have an album come out? Like,
right.
It was just like, they didn't even adhere to the movie's own logic. Like the movie's own like setup of like, these are the stakes. We're just throwing out the window. Just
what we, you're thinking too logically about this, Stephen. As I think that we call that what is the term? Not a MacGuffin. There's some sort of term for like, but I think that the bait and switch would be a good term for like how they set up like this sort of like, oh, there's a little bit of tension, and like this movie has minimal tension in it, which I guess maybe is the spirit of Hallmark films in general, but like this really
the most tension I had was watching and just being like, is she gonna drop the set photographer's camera on the ground in this scene?
Like, no, not using the strap, I think, is the one thing that stuck out really clearly. Like, you're just holding it, not using, like, not supporting, like, not putting the strap on, nothing. You've got the weird messenger bag. Like, I can understand if she didn't have a strap on it at all. Fine. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's just how she's rolling. And then she's like doing like a, Jasmine Star, going in and out of my, messenger bag and getting, lenses and stuff. But there was just like
there are no other lenses.
There are no other lenses. Like, what is she carrying in that bag?
She was shooting photos that clearly were shot with a 200 millimeter. Right. She only had a 28 to 70 or whatever.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, she's getting really close in with that. It must be an APS-C sensor.
Also, every photo that we actually end up seeing of hers that she took is a photo of the brother of the bride.
Right.
She doesn't take any photos of just the bride and groom. It's her job. It's literally her job. I guess that's not entirely true. There was the one scene where she sets up a tripod with the camera on it, and then the bride and groom come out and they sit down on a bench to have their photos taken. And they do show like little snapshots of what those photos were like. But the thing that killed me in that scene is she sets the tripod up at the right height for her as a person standing.
Right.
Then they sit down. So now the camera is maybe a foot over their heads. Right. So if they want to look at the camera, like the pictures show them looking at the camera, they have to like look up to look at the camera. They have to look up to talk to her because she's not like bending down to talk to them while they're having these photos taken. And none of the photos actually have them like looking up.
It's
like
on level.
It should be. Yeah. Everything's on level. And it's just like, could you at least just make like, she's not even looking into the camera while she's taking the photos. Just put the camera at the right height for the photos that you want to take.
She's like, not even bothering.
There's somebody on set who knows how to use a camera, and they have like little shots that probably the set photographer actually did take of the couple in the bench. Like,
right.
Why wouldn't they just lower the tripod just a little bit?
Just like, a smidge. Like, yeah, it's those like it, and I think to understand our frustration as photographers at this is there are so many of these instances. It's not like suspension of disbelief is one thing, and you're just sort of like, okay, whatever. They're not taking it so seriously that this person like studied photography for 6 months before shooting this movie. But it's that there are so many, like the mistakes about being a photographer are the most consistent thing in the movie. That her inability to actually do things that a working photographer would do, even though she's supposedly only been doing this for 2 years and just picked up photography as on a whim.
No, they did mention she was doing photography before because she shot their album covers when they were when they were a band.
Right. Yeah, you're correct.
Shot their album covers. They had YouTube videos. They had all this stuff from being a band. Like, and then at one point in time, towards the end, when they're talking about them possibly getting a song on the Pop Singers album or whatever, the girl, the sister of the romantic lead, if we can even
the bride, we'll call her the bride.
Yeah, the bride. She's like, it'll be so great that people will actually get to hear one of your songs. And I was like, they had a career.
Right.
Like
there was,
we saw Nana secretly watching a YouTube video of the two of them that looked professionally produced,
right,
singing a song together on her computer, which she shut like she was looking at porn when her granddaughter came in the room. And then when you kind of think about it, it's kind of like, well, it kind of was porn that Nana was watching because she did work with the bride to plan an entire wedding just to get her granddaughter laid again.
Right.
Like
I'm
Nana,
just trying to set you
kind
up.
of creepy.
Yeah. And it's just the way that Nana goes out of her way to like, oh, we gave them the super deluxe package. And, our lead is like, what? I've never heard of that before. And she's like, no, it's the full service, honey. You've been sold off. Nana's selling you off and pimping you out.
And, that is how she can afford that beautiful place where she lives that's gigantic and has like a scenic overlook of the bay. It's Nana's place. Like Nana is rich. I don't know how she made her money, if it was in photography or what it was, but she has to own half that island. Like
she must.
I do not believe for a second that Maggie Case Wedding Photography was able to purchase that house/studio
with that gorgeous wooden sign outside.
Yeah. And the deck that doesn't have like a rail, instead it has glass panels to keep you from falling off, which at first look, when I saw it, I was like, wait, the deck doesn't have anything to keep people from falling off. But then on a close-up shot, I was like, oh, there are glass panels there. I just apparently can't see.
Right.
Jen made fun of me a lot.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's, it has to be Nana's place. She's just sort of renting it. But you feel at the beginning, because you see it before you meet Nana or fully understand the setup of this. So you immediately think that it's hers, like that she is somehow like, this is her studio and then my immediate feelings on seeing that, 3 minutes into the film were like, she's been doing photography for how long? Doesn't remember people's names. And she's got this like beautiful house/studio. She can go to hell.
She is not a working photographer. She is riding off of the
Nana's coattails,
licensing rights for her music or Nana's coattails or something.
She's totally riding on Nana's coattails because, like I said, Nana's just feeding her clients over and over again. Because I'd like to read the Yelp reviews.
This photographer showed up who didn't have any idea what was going on, didn't have the itinerary until halfway through the first day of shooting when Nana showed up and just handed it to her. She was aloof and she spent most of the time flirting with my brother.
She was constantly like taking pictures of my brother. I have not seen any photos of my husband and I yet. That the photos that she took of us outside is just like the top of our heads. Like the composition is all off, and like this other guy had to come by and take pictures of us, so we looked natural. Wasn't she out there at one point, like taking pictures with him to like find the location, to, like take photos? Like, haven't you worked here like exclusively for 2 years. Don't you know
Yep.
the spots and how to set things up? Do you really need to bring the ex-boyfriend out here? Oh, let's just set this up and like work this a little bit. She drives me crazy. But moving on from that, like let's. I would like to make this a more regular thing because there are so many. I've found in my research there are so many Hallmark movies about like photographers as the main characters. Wow! I have a list of them. There's an entire series of like mysteries called Picture Perfect Mysteries.
I want to see this.
Okay, all right. I was going to ask if you like after you may have had a bad taste in your mouth about this one, but I just watched the first one, which I thought was like saying that things are like either they don't care or they do care about the photography. This one they seem to put a lot more effort into. Mm-hmm. This one they seem to put much more thought into the photography. Though there are still moments where I'm like, what? And the main character, the photographer, is actually. Made me feel really old, is the girl from Spy Girls.
Wow.
And her husband plays the male lead. And there's actual chemistry there. It's really good. Like I was like, I watched it and I was like, this isn't bad. This is a 180-degree turn from In the Key of Love. In the Key of Love, I give 2 thumbs down, a broken lens element, and a corrupted SD card is my rating. How would you sum up your feelings about it, Stephen?
In the Key of Love, I would give a photographer who just got a prism filter for their lens and shoots an entire wedding with it on.
With their iPhone instead of the camera.
Oh, gosh. There was one thing from the movie that I did think they actually did a fairly good job of that I wanted to bring up about the photography world. And that was the lead, Maggie Case, dressed like a photographer going to a portrait session. All of her outfits, every single time I was like, yeah, I 100% know photographers who wear exactly that when they go to shoot. She didn't necessarily dress like a photographer going to a wedding, but I mean, most of the events weren't the wedding. Most of the events were just weird things to throw her and Scott Michael Foster together. The only thing that was really missing from her whole outfit was like a wide brimmed hat and then like a leather harness for her camera.
Yes.
But like otherwise she nailed like the photographer aesthetic.
She totally needed a leather harness.
Yes.
Because, then she doesn't really have to touch the camera as much. They could have just had the camera like hanging off of her. Would have been like, and they have that aesthetic. Yes, she totally needed like big sunglasses and the wide brim hat as well. Can't have sunglasses on too much because you got to see the face. It's a movie. I totally get that. The part that got me the most was how she just like that really aggravated me the most. Is the stopping taking pictures at critical moments in the wedding, like the bride walking down the aisle. I'm just gonna luxuriate in this moment.
When Nana's bankrolling your life, you don't really have to worry about doing a good job with the photos.
Yeah.
So.
Nana's responsible. Nana's truly the villain of this movie because she enables Maggie to not really care about doing a quality job as a photographer. She can just, half-ass. She doesn't even half-ass. She maybe quarter-asses this, like, as a photographer. She maybe gives 25%, if that.
It would have been more believable that she was a photographer if they had just given her a Fisher-Price camera to hold the whole time.
They should have given her a Polaroid camera.
Yes.
Just taking Polaroids the whole time. I would have believed it more. Just the absolute, like, not understand. Like, she looked like she had just, like, picked up, like, something, like, something that had fallen, like an alien device that had fallen from the sky. And she's just like, what is this thing? I don't know what this thing, what does it do? And that's unfortunate. And I feel bad for the actress that was the situation that she was in. I don't know what happened there. It feels like it was sort of sprung on her at the last minute that, hey, by the way, this character is a photographer. Go. Here's the camera. Don't mess it up. That's Jake's camera, and he's going to be working on the set, so he's going to be watching you. If you put it down wrong, he gets to yell at you.
Also, he is going to need to grab it from time to time during scenes to do the set photography.
Right.
So,
because we're going to need those pictures later on for the movie.
we're going to need to have you strategically set the camera down and walk away from it so it's out of frame. Oh,
so that he can get production stills.
Somebody should have just given the actress, Laura Osnes, however you pronounce it. Somebody should have just given her a camera and just been like, just take like an hour, just play around with it, see what it feels like, take some photos, just get used to having it in your hand.
Right.
It felt like she never hit the shutter button. Oh, that was the other thing. They use sound effects for the camera shutter. Did you notice that the sound effect they used for the camera shutter changes throughout the movie? So it starts out like as one camera, and auditorily, it starts out as one camera and ends as a completely different camera because they don't use a consistent sound effect for the shutter. It was blowing my mind. I was like, who was in charge of the audio edit? Like,
yeah, there's something about that in like the first of the picture perfect mysteries that also like I noticed, and it comes back to what you said about the marking off the branding of the camera. I noticed the first camera like this character uses, you can't see the branding. Second camera, like then you like a scene later, like you can totally see it's an Nikon. And I was like, what? Is that the same? Nope, not the same camera. Not the same camera. And now it's making noises like now it's kind of making noises like it's a 35 millimeter. Like it sounds like a film camera. Not quite sure what's going on here. But then you realize, we'll set that up for another episode. But you realize that she and her assistant photographer are just like switching cameras back and forth, which makes no sense to me. But yeah, there's like
I've seen people do that when I've been shooting video. I've seen other photographers just like switch cameras with their assistant, and like I get it. Like, yeah, hey, I just have one camera that's on this lens, one that's on the other, and instead of like switching my lenses, I just say, assistant, give me the camera with the lens I want right now,
right?
And then you take photos with the other, like that. So that kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, but I was just like, that's like watching it as like immediately startled me. I was like, wait. Didn't the camera before not have branding on it? Was that also Nikon? I can't quite remember.
Nikon paid for it, and so that one must have been Fuji or Sony or Canon.
The funding, no, I think it actually, because I looked at it more closely, and it had the built-in, it was a digital, and you could like, you could see like a D whatever, you could see the little like Nikon thing on the grip, the little red marking on there. I was like, okay, yeah, it is. Wonder why they took it off that one and not the other one. That they were actually the same brand, but they covered one and not the other. Yeah, I think there's a wide number of these Hallmark movies about photographers, specifically wedding photographers. There's some that are not just weddings, but I think this is something that it's very interesting to me to see how it's handled in the movies. Every time I see a movie of any kind with like someone who's a photographer, like a character who's a photographer, and how they interact with the camera, because there's lots of movies that are, especially have like other films like where it's killing fields, or like where you have combat photographers or conflict photographers. Where you can see that these people like spend a lot of time like actually taking pictures. There's a movie called The Bang Bang Club, which is a true story about photographers in South Africa during apartheid. And you can see these guys, it was like Ryan Philippe, I think, and what's his name from Friday Night Lights? Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Taylor Kitsch is in it. Like you can tell that they've all spent a lot of time with the cameras. So to me, it's interesting to see like how the actors and the crew, the directors treat this, what is supposed to be a big part of the story. And it's a huge part. Like I'm looking forward to you watching now the picture perfect mysteries, because the taking of photos actually becomes a huge part of the solving of the mystery. It's actually like it's integral to the storytelling. So I was like, oh, this is good. This is interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was surprised and entertained. It was better than I thought it was going to be. So it's prepare you for that. It's better than In the Key of Love. But what was your final rating for In the Key of Love? I don't think we actually.
It was bad, real bad. Is there a rating system? What am I?
You can rate it on whatever scale you want.
I would give it my Sigma 35 millimeter that at the last wedding I shot last year, just randomly the aperture stopped working and closed all the way.
A blank screen. Just give it a blank screen. Excellent. Do you enjoy listening to your entertainment? Why am I asking? You're doing it right now. You must. With Audible, you can enjoy all of your audio entertainment in one place. From bestsellers to celebrity memoirs, mysteries and thrillers, motivation, wellness, business, and more. Audible has an incredible selection of audiobooks across every genre. But that's not all. Audible also offers exclusive Audible originals from top celebrities, renowned experts, and exciting new voices in audio, plus thousands of podcasts from popular favorites to exclusive new series. And with the Audible app, it's easy to listen anytime, anywhere, whether you're out taking photographs of landscapes, editing pictures in your studio, or going on intergalactic adventures with the Nerdy Photo Crew. You can listen to your favorite audiobooks and podcasts wherever you want. Right now, I'm going through Frank Herbert's Dune Saga once again. The world of these books is so rich and deep with history, I come back over and over and over. New members can try Audible free for 30 days. So what are you waiting for? Go to audibletrial.com/nerdyphoto and sign up for Audible today and discover your next favorite listen. That's audibletrial.com/nerdyphoto. Hey. And now for my favorite part of the show. What's that say? Useless information. This is always death. Episode. Stephen, did you know that the term fed up actually comes from falconing?
Really?
Yeah. It's a term because you want to keep the bird, the bird of prey that you're using for hunting, hungry enough that it will still want to eat and hunt. Because if it gets fed up, it no longer wants to do anything. And you can actually tell when these birds are fed up because there's a little pocket in their chest that puffs out. So you can see that the bird is fed up. It's totally serious. I saw this when I was in Scotland and we did our bird of prey experience. And they had hawks and eagles and, falcons and stuff. And the guy was telling me, they had an owl and he had fed the owl. He's like, you can tell this owl is now fed up. Because you can see the little thing that's puffed out. The term booze also comes from birds because it was, if they drank too much water, they would be tired and would not want to do anything either. So it's like having too much, I think this comes from a French word, but they eventually became the term booze. They're boozed up. They, were lethargic and didn't want to do anything. So that the term booze actually comes from birds as well. But yeah, I think I'm fed up with In the Key of Love. I've had more helpings than I care to have. So where can folks find you in the Wedding Photo Hangover podcast?
You guys can find us on Instagram and Facebook. Just Google Wedding Photo Hangover, or you can find us on Mastodon now. We're at Wedding Hangover at theradio.au there, or I'm at Stephen Van Elk at mastodon.social.
Nice. And did you hear that Instagram is supposedly going to change up some of their interface? Apparently, maybe apparently possibly going back more to photos, like photocentric.
Well, that would be nice.
Yeah, it would be nice since it's, all about the gram.
But I keep getting offered money to make reels.
Right.
So.
$20 for 100,000 views or whatever it is.
Oh gosh, I was reading about the people who get like the most views with that, and they're literally it's influencers who stop making like real content, so to speak, and they just do the little filter things that like are, hey, what zodiac sign are you or whatever,
Right.
and they react to whatever pops up, and they'll do 6 to 8 of them a day. And they were talking about how they would get, they went from having no followers to having millions of followers and getting millions of views on every single video they put out. And they're like, we have no idea who's watching any of these.
Right.
But then they get to a point where Instagram is offering them $35,000 a month to keep making them. And they're like, I guess I keep making 10 to 16 of these a day now instead of 6 to 8. And they're like, it's pretty easy because each one only takes like a minute or so because you just pull up a filter and do it and
react.
It's just mind blowing to me. It's like, wait, you can make
how much money?
$5,000 a month
what?
by just reacting. And I was like, what am I doing with my life?
Well, that's surprising to me because I had talked to Rob Hall on before, and he was getting like 1 million views on Reels and stuff, and they maxed him out at $1,000 a month.
So they can keep raising it. And like I like the whole Reels thing, like I have several different accounts that I run for like Van Elk & Co. That's my wife and I's photography business. Then for myself, Stephen Van Elk, then for Wedding Photo Hangover. And I get offers for each one of those to start doing Reels. And like Stephen Van Elk and Van Elk & Co. both get offered, I think Stephen Van Elk gets offered $1,200 a month. Van Elk & Co. gets offered $1,500 a month, and Wedding Photo Hangover gets offered $800 a month. And I mean, that's all like we max you out at that amount. It's not like just make us Reels and we'll pay you that, but you got to earn it or whatever. But
you got to get 1 million
views. It's weird to me that it's like different tiers for how much you can make. And so hearing that there are people who get offered apparently $35,000 a month is just crazy to me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it depends on how many followers you have, I guess, because it's like that's entirely what they want. And the thing is, what Rob told me when he was like, we were talking about it, and maybe they've upped him from this point, but he was, he was getting like 1 million views on some of his Reels, and he said, "Oh, what they've done, it's just to get people to make more Reels. If your Reel encourages people to make more Reels, then it like shoots way up in like the algorithm. It's just that, which is why you get all these people who are like, oh, you should just try this. You should try this trending sound, and blah blah blah. Like, or try this as a layout for your reel, and like they've somehow got like 8 million views, and you're like, what? There's nothing to this. There's nothing like, but it's just like it continues the cycle. It's like it makes me think more and more that we're living in a simulation, because it's just like it's trying. The content, like the need, like you have to make more reels. There's got to be more stuff. And like, and I'm on TikTok, and I personally enjoy that, like for video more than Instagram for like reels. Don't like Instagram, please. If you want to pay me, I'll take the money.
TikTok pays people too.
Yes, but they like the amount of money you make off of things is like not. They get paid by the number of views. Like, and you have to hit a certain number of views, and then you make a certain amount of money. So it's not like we're going to pay you this X amount a month. It's like we're paying you on individual videos once you're part of the content creator program there. And
that's how the Instagram one works too.
Yeah, but I thought that you had to reach a certain number of views, and then they just paid you that fee. Like no. So like you start making money by how many views you get. Like the article I was reading about the guys doing the facial react thing, he said the first one he ever did, he woke up the next day to find $10 in his like Instagram account or whatever. Then he was like, oh, I guess I'm going to keep doing these. Now he's making $35,000 a month. Maybe I'm in the wrong business.
Yes.
Yeah, there's I don't know, the desire by Instagram to just continue to get people to make more and more stuff. And I don't think it's obviously there's some of that to TikTok as well. Like people just stitching things or using the similar filters and whatever, but it doesn't seem to be in like where if you specifically say or write in the caption, use this to make your own reels or try this on your filter on your own reels, whatever. Like Instagram just like jumps that stuff way, way up. It gets like super spread as far as like reach. I don't know what it is. I don't know what. Then I've got like reels of like, there's a reel of me at a wedding recently, like in the 360 photo booth, which I think now has like 80,000 views.
Nice.
Which I don't know. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. Like, I can't figure it out. I can't figure out how like one thing gets more play than another.
360 photo booths are cool. So
it looks sweet. It looks like the Matrix. I mean, that's maybe it's because I just look cool. Maybe that's why. But like, I try to look at. Like,
I think you always look cool, Casey.
You're too kind. Yeah, I think that it's a great mystery as to why things that are not like don't fit into that specific like, hey, watch this and make your own video like this. Why anything goes. It's not even viral. It's 80,000. It's nothing. That's compared to like, I'll sit there and I'm like, oh, here's a 5-second video where it's like nothing happens whatsoever that has 8 million views. And I'm just like, what? Why did this happen? I don't know. I don't get it. One of life's great mysteries. Stephen, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you'll have to come back and we'll talk about more Hallmark photography movies.
I would love that.
It'll be a great time. Looking forward to it.
Talking about them is great. Watching them is horrible.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this discussion about the Hallmark film In the Key of Love. If you want to check out this amazing piece of cinema for yourself, you can find the link in the episode notes. And special thanks to my guest, Stephen Van Elk. You can also find all of his links in the episode notes as well. I think we're going to start maybe tackling more of these types of films and how photographers are represented in Hallmark movies, because there are a surprising number of Hallmark films with photographers as the main character or one of the main characters. So be sure to subscribe to the Nerdy Photographer Podcast and don't miss out on those future episodes. Between episodes, you can also follow along on social media at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. That's at The Nerdy Photo on Instagram, Twitter, and the TikToks. Lots of funny stuff happening on the socials. Hey, are you guys going to get me out of this thing anytime soon?
We have to consult with our union rep.
Oh, that figures. Until next time, stay safe and stay nerdy.
Who's that coming back to town? You better start listening. Who's your heart been beating about? You better listen.